Hello, this is Shawn. We're going to jump right back into our tracker system for behavior management. There is a little tweak we're going to do to kind of address an issue that comes up. So if we look back in LookerStudio, there is a minor issue with the fact that the date is all combined together. Now, this roots from the fact that we have this question on our behavior tracker. And when we initially create the question, it has both month, date, and time. Easiest thing, if you're just getting started, don't include the time. Ask a question for the date and ask a question for the time. It'll make it go a lot smoother for you, but we can address this. This is an easy thing, and you might want another feature added on to this. So to get this to split so that we can add additional charts, for like time and maybe even day of the week, which we might look at, we need to come actually into our behavior tracker and split it. So either split it at the form or we're going to split it here. So there's a couple of formulas we can do this with. There's Datevalue, which will actually look at a string of data and pull the date in. I know initially it's not going to look like it is because we get this funny looking number, but if we come into format number and change it to date, it looks at the date. Now, I don't like the way that looks initially, so I'm actually going to do custom date and time and scroll down and select the value way I want. So you can actually look through this and find the different looks that you're wanting to do. I'm going to do August abbreviated and -5, so we have our abbreviated thing. Now, if I'm using the copy down extension, it's going to fill that in for each one of those and continue on. I tend to prefer using array formulas, and so I'm going to change it from saying just G2 to all of G. Now, the reason it didn't populate is because that's not an array formula yet. I need to actually apply the array. So I'm going to hit Control Shift and Enter, and it makes it array formula. Or I can just type in array formula at the front of it. Now that populates the whole way down, but I now have these error values because it's looking beyond what data it has. Well, to get rid of an error, there's actually a formula for it. I come right behind my equal sign and I type in if error and do parenthesis. You see this this formula recommendation comes up. Now, if there's an error with the data, it just blanks it out. And it's really handy to have. So I have my date. I could type in date up here, or I can recreate this as a header. So if you want to actually have this formula be at the very top, copy it, cut it out. I'm going to come back up to the top, and now right in front of where it has date, I'm going to actually start building a header thing. So I'm going to put in our little bracket bracer, and then I'm going to say month and day as the header, close parentheses, and go on. Oop, I'll always do this. Now behind the date value, I want to put the bracer. Now we have it. And I will include this formula in the description, but I want a second formula. So I'm going to copy this and I'll paste it right next to it. I've got another formula for you. So instead of date value, what if we want time? So I have the time value. Format. And now I come over and I have time, but I don't want the seconds on there. So I'm going to do custom date and I'm going to find the time that fits for what I want to show. You can do military time, or we can do the 1:25 p.m. So that doesn't include seconds. Now you'll notice my header's wrong though. I just need to change it right here. And now I'm going to just say time. So these two I highly recommend. All right, so let's jump back over into LookerStudio. And we got to make some changes in here. So now with our data, we have the date still with the time, and I don't see the options to add in those other things. That's because I have to reconnect the data source. So I'm going to come up here to resource. And we're going to manage added data sources. And we've only got the one added data source right now. So I'm going to edit this. I was playing around with something, so I'm going to show you how I was actually doing that later. Now I need to edit connections. So this should look familiar. This is how we first kind of linked it up, but I'm just going to tell it to reconnect. And what it's going to do is going to look at that form to see if there's any new data sources. So in this case, we now have month, day, and time. So I'm going to apply that. Now I have noticed every now and then it's a weird little glitch where it'll repeat some of these new ones that gets added on. Don't worry anything about that. So month and day is on here, and it's viewing it as a date. Time, it's viewing it as text, but that's okay. I'm going to hit done and then close. And now everything's working. I don't need this date anymore, but now I'm going to add in month and day. And now I have month and day. Now I'm going to add in time and I have time. Now month and day is still giving me the year. And I don't really like that, so I can actually edit month and day here. If you look right next to it, the little calendar symbol has a little pin. I can click it. And now I can switch this to say date, time. I'm going to scroll it down until I see month and day. And that's just my personal preference on there. You might even be able to add in, I don't really know, this is just playing around. I'll add it in again. And this time I'm going to edit it to say day of the week. And now I have the day of the week added in. So those are going to be interesting pieces of information. I don't like that they're both saying the same thing here. So once again, I can come into the second one and I can say day of week. And now I have all this data. Now, the beauty of having these as our filter pieces is actually going to show up here in this chart. Because now I can come in here and I can say duplicate this. And now instead of grade on this one, I'm going to swap that out for time. And now I can actually start filtering based on time. Before I start really looking in on that, we're going to duplicate again. Not the one I wanted to grab, but that's okay. Get rid of time, we'll do month and day. Now, that's not really going to help us too much, but I can actually switch this to say, yet again, day of the week. Date, scroll down, day of the week, give it a name, day of week. So now I've got 12 Sundays. Apparently we run Sunday here. Once again, all fake data, so I didn't double check the dates. Arrange these with each other, and now when I filter, let's say I want to know what happens at 9:30. It's cleared out to 9:30. I want to know Tuesday because school is actually in session there. I've got 4 freshmen. Actually, it's Jaden Hill doing these same activities. Once again, bus and classroom. So I'm getting all this extra data for conversation pieces. This could be, okay, this is happening right after they come on recess or while they're on recess or right after lunch or right before lunch or right when they first get at school. This info helps a lot when you're having conversations. So those are really neat little pieces to add. And as a little bonus thing, we're going to go back into our resources. I'm going to show you something else you can do here. So if I hit edit again, since we're just here, you might notice I'm never going to use the timestamp because staff might not get around to putting things in right when it happens. So the timestamp's kind of irrelevant unless you want to have a conversation of, okay, this was when that was logged. This is when you dated it kind of thing. But I can hide that. And then I'm also never going to use the actual date anymore. I am not going to use the email addresses. And so now when I come over here to our data, once I close all that out, those options are gone from this list. If ever you remove one and it causes an issue, just turn around and put it right back in play. But it's not deleting it, it's just hiding it from the view of the selection. And it just makes it a little easier for when you're trying to sort things out. So those are going to be our big features that you have, guys. And I thank you yet again for your time. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching this video. Please click the like button and subscribe so you can stay up to date on any future videos.